Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland, the Core Rulez. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this science fantasy post-apocalypse experience, please check out the playlist in the description below. Before we go further with this part of the review, I would like to talk about the channel's sponsor. Heroes and Hardships is a universal RPG system. It will allow you to play any genre, any adventure, any story. I have featured a few reviews in my channel, the Quickstart review and the Wallace setting review. If you want more information about the system, or at least just a glimpse of it because it's the Quickstart guide, please check out that video. And if you want more information about the sort of adventures that you can run with Heroes and Hardships, please check out the Wallace review. The links to the Kickstarter and the page of Heroes and Hardships will also be in the description, so check it out please. Now moving on with the review, this time we are going to continue with the conditions, mutations, curses, fear, and even adventure creation. Let's start with conditions. You have things such as bleeding. Sometimes a wound is just too big or too deep. If a character has the bleeding damage, they take an additional 1d4 minus 1 damage at the beginning of each round before the movement phase. There is also blindness. You could be temporarily blinded or otherwise. If blinded, a character suffers a minus 4 penalty to all attack rolls and a minus 2 penalty to armor class. In addition, this causes the party to suffer a minus 2 penalty on any initiative rolls. Well, that is if the entire party has been blinded, of course. Then you have Dazed. A dazed character rolls a resolve saving throw during the next check conditions phase. If a success, they take their turn as normal. If a failure, they spend the turn seeing stars. This effect only lasts one turn, unless otherwise stated. There is also Sugar Rush. While in a Sugar Rush, the player character gains an additional plus 5 feet to movement, and an additional plus 1 to attack, and a plus 1 to armor class. These bonuses last for one turn. Then comes the Crash. The turn right after a Sugar Rush inflicts the player character with a penalty to movement, attacks, and armor class. The character can offset the Crash by taking more items granting the Sugar Rush condition. However, the Crash will catch up, and the player character suffers turns of Crash equal to the amount of turns they had with Sugar Rush. And these are just some of the conditions. Next we have Fear. Fear and being frightened is commonplace in Neo-Terrax. When a character becomes frightened, his fear may manifest in a variety of different ways. To represent this, you roll randomly on the fear chart. The more seasoned the character, the less likely he is to get frightened. This is represented by levels, of course. Let's talk about some of the results of the fear table. Fight or flight. But no one told your legs. You cannot move until your next turn. There's also catatonic shock. You spend the remainder of the turn taking no actions, just standing, staring, and drooling. There is also Flee, you fools. Time to get the fuck out of here. You flee the room as fast as possible, straight line to the nearest door or exit. Taking attacks from enemies, you come within 5 feet of. There is also self-flagellation. Dealing normal damage to yourself, the pain snaps you out of the fear, but gains you 2 madness points. These are just some of the effects of fear. Then we have different types of damage, such as acid. Acid damage ignores the target's armor class and stays on them until it is washed off. Acid damage deals the same amount of damage each turn during the conditions check phase, until washed off by a non-flammable liquid. There's also extreme damage. When a weapon with extreme damage hits, the user rolls a d20 versus extreme check. If it's successful, the weapon deals double damage. If a 1 is rolled, the weapon is destroyed. There is also poison damage. If a character ingests, inhales, gets struck, or otherwise comes into contact with a poisonous source, they make a death saving throw. If the save is successful, the player character lives to fight another day. If failed, the character suffers the effects of the poison, often resulting in death. Then you have vial damage, which is a form of radiation damage, being sent straight into the bloodstream. When a successful hit lands, the target must make a grit saving throw or roll on the minor mutations chart. These are just some of the types of damage. There are also curses and disease, such as Dusk Cough. The curse can be found in mummy burial tombs when they are disturbed by curious humanoid adventurers. Purple sand begins to pour out of the nose and mouth of the victim, not enough to suffocate them, but enough to be annoying, granting them a -2 to all rolls until healed. In addition, they always leave a trail of the sand wherever they go. You also have Laughing Death, caused by a random mixture of gases and chemicals. When breathed in, it causes the victim to laugh until they fall over dead from a heart attack. When the sweet fumes enter the air, victims may make a grit saving throw to hold their breaths and get out of the area before the giggles set in. There's also, of course, Chaos Warp. Too much radiation from the winds of chaos or the dying words of a war wizard can cause a person to roll on the major mutation chart and gain bloodlust until they die. No one knows the exact cause or how one can gain the Chaos Warp. This is a curse that once someone has it, it's game over. It mostly affects magic users. These are just some of the curses. Then we have mutations. Exposure to the vile radioactive toxic sludge of the wastelands can have some radical effects on one's body. So can tampering with the winds of chaos and extra-dimensional beings. There are minor mutations such as everything tastes like meat treat, the jellied meat, yum. Or your eyes change. Maybe now you have no pupil. Or maybe all pupil and +1 attitude. Maybe you have aged a random number of years. Perhaps you have the dragon's sense. You can detect gold or treasure within 30 feet of your location. Maybe you have nacho blood. Hot and gooey, all damage dealt to you by non-magical means is halved due to the thickness of your blood, and wounds are slow to bleed. When it comes to major mutations, you have things such as iron guts. You are immune to poison. Maybe you have a baby arm. You can't use two-handed weapons or carry a shield. Perhaps now you are bulletproof. Your tough skin grants you an armor class bonus. Perhaps now you have 3 eyes. You are now a Triclops, and each eye has a different property. However, you have a penalty to attack rolls and any check involving sight. But now you have an eye that perhaps has X-ray vision. Another eye could have smell-o-vision, that is, you can see smells. Or maybe another eye has planar sight, allowing you to see in a different plane of existence. Then you have mega mutations, such as translucent skin. You get a penalty to all rolls in daylight. You are adept in spellcasting and can cast one random level 1 war wizard spell once per day. Perhaps you are an insect master. You gain the ability to call upon a swarm of insects to aid you in whatever you may need. The swarm can attack a target, dealing 1d8 of damage in stings. The swarm can cover your body as well, granting you a bonus to armor class. Maybe you obtain the Psychic Powers mutation. Your brain enlarges to double its size. You gain the ability to cast 3 random level 1 star spawn manifestations using your class-based ability points to cast them. Or maybe now you bark at the moon. You begin to rapidly de-age as your body grows black fur, sharp teeth, and claws. You have transformed into a werewolf, specifically a teenage werewolf. Now let's talk about Wasteland Dungeon Building. This book contains a set of tables to create adventure sites. You have a location table. Perhaps you obtain the result of Mutant Fortress or Wasteland Bunker. Perhaps a Skulljammer's Black Site. You also have a What's this dump look like table. Maybe it's shoddy work. The dump is falling apart. Or maybe it's well built. This dump is in decent condition. You also have the Spice a Room table, with results such as you find a working vending machine. Maybe you encounter an abandoned arcade. Perhaps there is a weird mist filling the entire room. There's also a room descriptions table. Perhaps you obtain the result of it smells like fresh pizza. Perhaps the room is raining blood. Or maybe the room is trashed. Everything in it has been destroyed. These tables are going to be very useful for solo play as well as improvised play, of course. Then you have traps. Maybe you trigger the jellied meat trap. A box of rancid jellied meat is broken open by either a tripwire or a pressure plate. When the box is busted, a thick rancid stink fills the air. The gross smell lures 1d6 shots to the location of the smell. Maybe you activate the death box, a devious trap constructed of a smoke grenade laced with reanimation serum, which was made airborne. Any dead flesh within the cloud is brought back to the world of the living for a brief period of time, before turning to jet black sludge after a number of turns pass. Perhaps you trigger the hallway laser trap. A net of lasers travels down a hallway with the dumbfounded players standing at the other end, not knowing what to do. When the laser net reaches a player, they make an agility saving throw or be sliced into tiny cubes. You also have a lasting injuries table. Sometimes a weapon, a trap, or a monster with a wild look in their eye can deal some real lasting injuries. When a player is dealt some serious damage to specific body parts, they consult the table. Maybe you get a missing toe. You get a penalty to base movement speed. Perhaps you end up with a broken leg. You need several weeks to heal by natural means. This can be mended magically or in a bioflesh regenerator. The base movement speed is reduced by 10 feet until the leg is healed. Maybe you end up with a minor chest wound. If the chest is lacerated and you manage to survive, you gain a big ass scar across your chest that grants you an additional 1 to attitude. Maybe you get a minor head injury. You end up losing a random number of brains points. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part, we are going to talk about the Ask Zoltan section. This works as a sort of oracle. We're also going to talk about loot, different items, rich stuff, and many other things. As you can see, all of the results, the curses, the diseases, the mutations, they also have mechanical effects, but they are mostly focused on being radical, gnarly, fun. And the adventure section will be useful for your group, that is when you run the game with your players, but also if you like to play this as a solo game, remember that there is a solo subset of rules that is also in the playlist for this review. So whether you are using those solo rules or not, the tables contained in this core rulebook will be useful for any style of solo play. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.